Welcome to PropTech Pulse, the podcast that takes the pulse of prop technology in multifamily. I'm your host, Shelley Robinson, and each week we'll be diving deep into innovations, challenges, and the future of work in property technology and multifamily. From AI-driven property management to blockchain and real estate, we're here to explore how technology is reshaping the way we live, work, and invest in multifamily communities. Whether you're a property manager, a tech entrepreneur, an executive, or even simply curious about the future of living spaces, PropTech Pulse is your weekly dose of insights and inspiration. So let's sync our rhythms and get on with the show. It's time to take the pulse. Hi, Liz. Thanks for joining the podcast today. We're so glad to have you.
Great to be here. Thank you, Shelley.
So to kick us off, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you're working on?
Happy to. I have been in real estate for, 20 plus years now, commercial real estate specifically. I spent most of my career in capital markets at startups, some varying backgrounds, a private equity-backed lending platform that's publicly traded now called ReadyCap. Started as a early executive there. Left and went to Realty Mogul, which is a Series B plus PropTech, fintech, real estate capital markets platform. We raised money online for real estate investments as a dual-sided marketplace and was on the real estate side of that business. And it was there that I got to work with some really smart data and technology folks on developing some technology that we were using internally. We had a lot of transactions that we were looking at, spending a lot of money on data, and we weren't able to get through things quickly enough. So we started building some algorithmic review processes for internal use and ended up building it to a place where we were able to spin it off and sold it to Hunt Mortgage as a underwriting software platform for their deals. And through that process, really got to see a lot of the challenges with data, particularly for multifamily, and went down the rabbit hole on that one, which landed me here at Revolution RE. We do data standardization, business intelligence, data analytics specifically for multifamily properties and portfolios. So we call it an ETL. We extract data from core systems of record. We transform it using a data model that essentially standardizes and normalizes data into a common and consistent format. And then we can load it into a variety of different endpoints, whether it's reporting, business intelligence, PropTech solutions, AI applications. It's kind of a lot of different end use cases for clean data.
That is really awesome. And what I sense is you see problems and then you see opportunities and then you go out about to solve them. And that is just the true entrepreneurial spirit there.
This is my fourth startup, so I clearly don't know how to do anything else.
You kind of love it. You also, it sounds like with what you're doing now with Revolution is you can customize it based on what the goals are of your clients, which to me is just what I hear as a theme out in the industry with everyone I talk to is I have this problem, I have this need, and you can kind of customize that based on that need.
Absolutely. Every real estate operator is different, unfortunately. It's just the nature of having private investments and, we're not trading in stocks and bonds. There's not public vetting of most real estate transactions. So there's a lot of information asymmetry. People who know their markets and know the assets tend to be better operators, and that's just how it goes. People are very proprietary in their business practices. They bring their special sauce to their investment thesis and have a good theme to how they invest. They like workforce housing in a particular market and have been doing it for however many years. And it's because of that unique perspective that management companies bring, ownership groups bring to their portfolios that helps to differentiate them to investors. And because of that, you really have to get to the underlying data points, which is kind of what we had to spend time extracting not calculated information, but really the inputs, because there's multiple ways. Occupancy is probably the biggest offender. How many different ways you can calculate something. It's important to be able to pick the same definitions for comparative purposes so that you're comparing apples to apples. But even within companies, people want to look at things slightly differently. And so giving them the flexibility to do that is super important.
That's such a great strategy to have in that custom way. And it's so true. Every single one is different. Okay, I'm going to kick things off next with future in a bottle questions. What are the top 3 things you see changing in prop tech in the next 5 years and why?
Goodness. Well, I think we've seen a lot of change in the last couple of years alone. I feel very fortunate. I said timing is everything when it comes to startups, and sometimes you get lucky and building a data platform right when there's this emergence of unbelievably robust artificial intelligence. I know it's such a buzzword, but these machine learning, large language models, the ability to do so much with these technologies isn't just transforming real estate, it's transforming work and every industry that is out there with its impact, particularly in automation. So creating tremendous efficiencies and it's getting even more advanced. So going from kind of this single task to multi-staged agents that can do multiple tasks that really will improve the housing experience for residents, but also the work experience for the folks who are working on the ground, because these repetitive tasks lead to a lot of job dissatisfaction, changing the workforce in a way that allows us to be even more connected. That's where I go with it. I'd say number one is increasing human connectivity through AI and automation will be huge. Expansion of smart buildings and technologies that really enhance the housing experience. I think that is going to just increase where we get personalization at the property in our homes. That I think is going to be a huge jump over the next 5 years, particularly in regards to sustainability and how we use data and technology to improve the air quality, the energy usage, and just how efficient properties are from a sustainability standpoint as well. And let's say the third, and this is going to be my big initiative for next year, is ROI tracking. So looking at how are we as real estate operators increasing efficiency across the board, and how are we tracking how we roll out both technology as well as new initiatives with a return on that investment. So whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's people, are we being really thoughtful about making sure that any investment that we make has a return, and that we're not just doing it for the sake of saying that we're doing something, but then being able to use that information and prioritize. Because that's, I think, is super critical. Being a good operator is focus on the important stuff, the things that have the most impact, and really lean in on those to improve property performance and efficiency.
And that really goes into all the factors in that ROI as well. You know, what are all of those factors that are affecting the ROI, pros and cons, right? And that can be economic. Can be staff, that can be market, that can be new supply. There's so many things that can affect that ROI, and then kind of being able to look at all of those things together and have those insights to drive better decisions, right? Better decisions on spend, everything.
And people quantify things differently. So, time is, and that's where it's like the unique nature of not just real estate operators, but just people in general is important, because some people don't put any premium on time, and some people don't want to focus on, renewals because they may have a different business strategy. Their business strategy may be that they're doing a 3-year hold or a 10-year hold. Everything that you do is impacted by your own personal motivations.
Oh, totally.
That creates different priorities.
So true. And on that note, how do you see work changing in the next 5 years for roles based on all of these emerging themes and technologies coming into play?
I think we're looking at a period of great centralization. I think it makes a lot of sense, particularly with all these new technologies that will make it a lot easier to be more efficient. So using automation to streamline processes is going to have a multitude of impacts, both on reduction in workforce, but also life quality improvement of the folks that are working in these particular areas to not have to do a lot of those mundane things. So I think you're going to be seeing, hopefully, a lot more focus on retention of not just residents, but also staff, because there's a huge cost to that turn that I don't think many operators have been able to quantify as much as they perhaps should. So having a greater focus on how technology can improve the performance and the happiness level of teams, both on site and at the corporate level, I think will hopefully be a focus on some of these innovations in the coming years.
Like that. It's funny. I never forgot the Institute of Real Estate Management had, I think it was in 2016, a study that said by 2020, the industry was going to be short 120,000 qualified property managers. And I have watched that come true and then some. And then you had, COVID and then all kinds of technological advancements. I think the industry is really struggling to adjust. One, because a lot of companies are so large, and the larger you are, the harder it is to steer in a different direction, but also in kind of changing the landscape in the technology and even how it works. So I think you're spot on. Talent retention, talent attraction, as well as the way that they work, freeing up time to spend with residents in the way the residents want to be communicated with or time spent with as well in a flexible way. So that's really insightful. What do you think is one underrated PropTech solution right now?
Oh, goodness, just one. There are quite a few that are out there. I'll throw a curveball because I think there's some super interesting solutions on the fraud side. That obviously is a huge issue in the industry and something that is hopefully getting a little more attention these days. It's kind of an ugly topic, but is getting even worse with technology. The thing I think is underrated, and I'll throw out there, is parking. I think that there's a lack of focus on parking as a potential significant revenue driver. And it's just been kind of an afterthought for some operators that they've got parking and it's kind of like, okay, just parking. But the parking applications that are out there now are super interesting in their ability. Park Aid and probably know some others that to be able to track how you're treating your parking spaces similar to how you treat your units and doing inventory management and maximization of rents and dynamic pricing, especially for big operators who have tons and tons of units, I think is, it's like Trash Butler for trash. I did this. There really are these kind of line items that you see and you don't think much about them. In the aggregate, it can be super impactful on a portfolio to implement one of these solutions that doesn't seem like it's going to have a big impact, but for sure will.
It's driving those insights, right? So you can make better business decisions. In an urban market, you may not have residents with cars. And so then you may want to decide to rent them out to the public because parking's at a premium.
Exactly.
So it's really getting creative, and everybody's pressed on costs. Everybody's pressed on NOI. Kind of coming up with those additional revenue streams is really critical more than ever. I love that. That's a great insight. How do you see, you had mentioned AI and machine learning, and I have kind of the term of, it reminds me of digital marketing days when it first came out. It's kind of mystery meat, and illuminating and providing clarity. And I think sometimes people don't want to say, hey, this is confusing to me, right? How do you see AI and machine learning transforming property management in the years to come?
Thank you.
Kind of an example.
Thank you so much for asking this, because I do think it's a black box for some people. And I do think there's I don't want to say a reticence. I think people are busy and it's not it's not touching their business maybe so much yet to really dig in to, there's maybe some curiosity I think a lot of people hear about it and maybe are being kind of pushed by someone, whether it's an investor or a boss, to dig in and find out more about how it can. McKinsey did a report that said only 20% of real estate operators actually have successfully implemented AI or generative AI technologies. And of the ones that did, they saw a 10% on average improvement to NOI, which is not a small impact, right? That's a lot. That's a lot. So what is the disconnect? And I think it's a couple of things. I think it is, data is hard, and any of these applications require a certain amount of data and clean data. The bots, Elise and all, those have done very well they have very low friction because they don't require any data to implement. And once, or at least to initially implement. And so another very interesting application I'm seeing out there is Travtis. They're doing sentiment analysis, but they're getting it via surveys and online reviews and emails. So there's lots of different applications that can impact any line item or operational task that you have at a company. Yeah. And that's daunting. So I've actually been thinking a lot, and this is the first time I've ever done this in a podcast. I'm going to ask people, if you hear this and you are interested, please reach out to me, because I've been kind of playing around with whether to put together a framework or how to present a framework for thinking about these technologies, because it really is generative AI, which is the use of these large language models to generate content that could be for marketing content or investor content or any marketing website content. It could be for bots communicating on leasing. So that's kind of one category, would be kind of the communication aspect. Another would be the automation aspect, kind of the agents where you're, having a lease go through an entire lease process. That I think of more as kind of the using your business rules, but also some logic that perhaps takes on a more artificial intelligence driven boost to your productivity. And then the third would be predictive models. And that's where it gets really interesting, because then you're starting to look at things for acquisition purposes. We just ran a predictive budget. So taking a process that takes so long within a company and taking your historic 24 months and just generating a predictive 12-month budget based on seasonality. And the only thing you miss is the black swan event of in Q3, the world, turned upside down. That you can't quite predict, but what you can predict is a good, solid basis for presenting and bringing information and data forward based on historic events that can be pretty accurate. So renewal rates of tenants, you're more likely to have a tenant in a 3-bedroom renew if they have kids at the school year, because they're not going to move out. Using data to help supplement these algorithms and get educated, someone who's lived in a unit for 10 years, they're not going to move out. These are things that help make it a lot easier to operate, because then you can focus on the things that are more important, and they can help to surface a lot of the more risky or important or topical things that are going on at a property, because there's so many things that are happening. How do you know what to focus on? How do you know what to look at? How do you know which properties need attention and which ones are kind of coasting and are okay? So that's where I think if you put it into those 3 buckets. But the applications, there's so many. It is daunting.
It is daunting. 2 things really stand out to me, and maybe this is my own pain talking, but I missed my birthday for 20 years in a row, because my birthday's in September and it was always budget season, right? You're always just deeply ingrained in this months-long process as an operator where, you're driving this budget process and you're back and forth with your property management company and your ownership group and the asset management teams, and you're working 7 days a week and really missing actually out on the business of taking care of your residents during that time. To have something that would, one, shorten that cycle, even if it shortened it in half, that would be such a game changer for the industry, as well as freeing up that time for that resident experience, as well as, growing and nurturing your teams, that just everything goes to the wayside in that process. So love that. Love. would love to get to the point where it's like a couple weeks and you're just adjusting the model and having, more strategic and thoughtful conversations with your ownership group. Also, on the predictiveness of renewals, I think of all the times you have a property manager who's gotten promoted or has moved on, and then you've got someone else who comes into a property. They have no idea except to start from scratch and learning all of those hundreds of, sometimes thousands of residents and kind of learning their sentiment. You now have this picture of sentiment that you can look and say, okay, I need to focus on these 20 residents. Here's where my pain is. I just think that is transformative.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Who's complaining, who's putting in all the work orders. And there's a number of data points that you really want to be mindful of to get to know your residents a little bit more. But you look at these properties and 500 unit properties, like
Daunting.
how is that even? It's daunting. So a little help would be appreciated.
It totally would.
Yeah.
What's one bold prediction you have for the next 10 years? And I know that's a large canvas, but
Goodness. Okay. You want to hear my drop mic? This is my big one. Oh goodness. I don't know if it's 10 years. I would love it to be 10 years. So I'll go down the rabbit hole with you on this one. Real estate's an illiquid asset. The reason it is illiquid is because it takes a while to close on a transaction. You have to go and do diligence on the borrower. You have to do diligence on the property, diligence on the leases. Bank has to underwrite the deal or the lender. You've got to get title. You've got to get escrow. With blockchain, with machine learning and large language models, there is a speed with which data is now not only growing, it's 2,000% over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So not only are we getting a lot more data, but with all of that data creation, the speed with which we're able to process it, I mean, the cost has gone down. It's why, things like machine learning, that it's been around for a while. It's that it's in the hands of people, everyday people, us, and that we can afford it, that makes it accessible. It's the speed with which it works that's making it exciting and actually spurring all these new startups to be able to do cool things with it. So my big prediction over the next 10 years is these technologies, what's happening with title and blending, fintech, I think we're going to see a day in our lifetime where we have a liquid real estate market and people can take a phone and walk up to a property and say, I'd like to purchase that property. And the seller says, I'd like to accept that offer. And the data's there. It's available. You don't need to underwrite someone. They're already, instantaneously,
underwritten. Yeah. All the analysis, more of an on-demand connected system.
But what does that do when the world's largest asset class that's got
totally
trillions in value? It opens up, because there's an illiquidity premium that other asset classes have to real estate because it's illiquid, because we have no price or much less price volatility. So it definitely will have an impact on the global markets if real estate is liquid.
It becomes on demand, basically, right? Yeah. Interesting.
But I get excited because I'm like, are we a part of that? Kind of helped inform our name, because I do think that this is happening. This is real. This is, our grandchildren may look back and be like, hearing this podcast and be like, I can't believe they've thought this was maybe not an option. Like, it just does seem like a silly thing. It's like I pointed out to my son a gas station, and I was like, you're not going to have those when you're my age. This isn't going to be a thing. These are gone. Just like payphones. We used to have payphones.
Oh, yeah. Or even the telephone cord you stretched around the house to have a private conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's really interesting. It'll be one to watch. So one last question. What advice would you give to multifamily professionals that are looking to stay ahead of the PropTech curve? What would you recommend for them?
Oh, goodness. Look at other industries. I hate to say it that way. I think we have some unique limitations within our industry that our paradigm is different. How the speed, the product we're delivering housing, which is, highly regulated. The industry being, so fragmented and somewhat technology averse. There are really exciting things going on in other industries that are just in general that I think are fun and exciting to watch and interesting. So I would say keep an eye out on those things, because those we're a little bit following the curve.
Yeah.
But those are the things that we have hopefully in our pipeline as a PropTech industry, are those types of applications and implementations. So to learn a little bit more about what's to come, I'd say take a wider net approach, because it's coming down the pike, I hope.
Totally. I always like watching the hotel industry. Hospitality is, they're always trying to innovate in ways they can serve their guests in a better way, without sacrificing.
Brand, loyalty. Yeah. So many things that hospitality has done that I think to myself, what is multifamily's issue with not adopting some of those? Because the point program, they're even more valuable than the revenue off of the underlying.
Totally.
Yeah. So we can learn a few things from looking at other industries, see what they're getting right, and maybe take a play.
I love that.
Page out of the playbook.
I love that. Well, Liz, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. And where should people find you? Where can they find you at?
They can find me, Liz, at revolutionre.com. And for sure, I should have added, I'm more than happy as well if people are interested in learning more about these technologies. I come at it from a real estate person's perspective. I'm very fortunate to have a wonderful, very smart tech team that I use as a resource to keep me up to speed and listen to all these amazing podcasts that are out there to hear what my colleagues in the industry are doing. Please feel free to reach out to me on either LinkedIn, Elizabeth Braman, or my email, liz@revolutionre.com, and would love to hear from you.
Love that. I'm so glad that you and I had a chance to talk, and
Me
I
too.
hope you have a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year.
Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Happy 2025 or end of 2024, everyone. And thanks so much for having me, Shelley. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
And that wraps up another episode of PropTech Pulse. I hope this conversation has given you valuable insights and perhaps even sparked some ideas for your own PropTech journey. Remember, the future of multifamily is being written right now with every technological advance and innovative solution. So stay curious, stay connected, and keep your finger on the pulse of PropTech. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to PropTech Pulse on your favorite podcast platform and share this along with your colleagues. You can also find us on social media for bite-sized insights and updates. I'm Shelley Robinson, and until next time, let's keep innovating, disrupting, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in PropTech and multifamily. Let's build it together.